just lost my job. Can you help me feed my kids? Hey, I'm sorry, son. I'm helping my neighbor next door. I'm paying his rent.
That's
I'm paying his house. I can't help you. What the hell?
I agree.
And that's what our government's doing to our seniors and our children. Look, here's the bottom line. You want to pay health care for our children, peach care, and all that kind of stuff? I don't have a problem with it. Right. You take whatever you need out of my paycheck, you take care of it. You want to take care of the senior citizens, my mom and dad? Absolutely. You take care of my mom and dad. But by God, you tell me if I can't get my lazy ass out and go to work, I don't deserve nothing.
I agree. There's a.
I went
into on that topic. I said the same thing. I said I feel like our government is looking down on us saying we don't have any money, but while they're telling us we don't have any money, we are going through a recession and we are broke. We're shipping billions of dollars to Egypt, billions of dollars to
Brazil. Well, we're telling Brazil, here's $500 million. Go drill some wells.
Yep.
Go drill oil. Yeah. And if you hit oil, hey, we'll be your biggest buyer.
And if we don't have any money, how are they
Brazil
giving
hates
money?
our guts.
Handing
what
money
are we doing?
You know.
Why not? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I agree. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about.
Like I tell my parents.
You were talking about the money being given overseas and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just crazy. You know, our government. Oh, I went to serve some warrants in the projects, Tampa Housing Authority, which is, even though it's Tampa Housing Authority, it's HUD, it's federal. But I just learned this. Basically, if you get accepted into HUD and you're living in HUD, I can deed my position over to my kids. So when I die, my kids can just take over my HUD house.
That's what's going on in New York up there with them people that got that were the owners were old people were living in the homes, and the government New York said, well, the new tenant owners that bought the buildings, you can't increase their rent. I don't care if it's a $2,500 apartment now. They're paying $300 a month. That's what you're going to get. And now children are moving in with their grandparents. When their grandparents die, they can't kick them out.
Yep.
Right.
And that's going on in New York. That ain't right. Why, if I buy that building, and I bought it because it's in Manhattan, and each apartment's worth $2,500 a month, and I paid $7 billion for it or whatever.
Your contract
and I can't
renew your lease.
That's right. When that old woman, I'll respect that old lady. But when she's dead, I'm not. Her kid's not moving in 2 months before she dies.
Well, but now the Tampa, those housing is a little bit different than, because we have apartment complexes that have certain areas that are Section 8 within the apartment complex. What happens?
You get me on another subject.
What happens with that is the federal government will pay that company full price of that rent, and then make that person pay $100, $200,
$1 a month.
Well, at the Tampa housing projects, there was an old guy. He's like 58 years old. Come to find out, he was born in Tampa and has lived there his whole entire life. And when his mom died, so he's been living in HUD housing from the street. Then I find out that there's a female. They're like, yeah, we're about to evict the female. She hasn't paid rent in 3 months. I'm like, oh, well, how much does she owe? She pays $1 a month in rent.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
She owes $3, but she refuses. She thinks she shouldn't pay anything. It's almost you owe me this.
Here's another thing. Why
you're done?
Why did all that did not go down? How come our news media and how come our Republicans? That's what pissed me off about the Republican Party. I donated money to the Republican Party, and it made me mad, and I quit sending them any more. When that lady got up there, that young girl from whatever college it was, and talked about the government stopping contraceptives and making a big issue out of contraceptives.
Fluke,
Sandra Fluke. Okay, why didn't somebody stand up and put a mic in her face, or why didn't a politician, when she came before the government, the House and the Senate, and start running her mouth up there at the request of Obama? How come somebody up there didn't have some cojones and say, hey, let me ask you a question. You're a college student. How many drinks do you drink a month? How many times do you go out to a party? How many times do you go to a bar and pay $6, $7, $8 for a highball or a drink, a mixed drink? How many times do you do that a month? You know what contraceptives cost, lady? $8 from your local Kroger or Walmart. You can't afford $8. If you can't afford $8 to protect yourself from sex, quit having sex.
Contraception is free in Florida.
So I mean, that whole thing was a stupid thing. You know, my insurance company paid for it, but why should the Catholic Church have to pay for it? Why should any
Catholic
Christian...
Church shouldn't have to.
And,
Or
and,
any
and, they,
church.
and they're not going to, but
They
Obama
tried.
was trying to
They
force them to
tried.
do it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
That's I know. I said.
How can you?
They
Well,
can
what
eat
gets
pork.
me is
Go eat
how
pork.
can you force
Go
a
eat pork.
religion to do something when you separated church and state a long time ago?
But
You
the
can't-
separation of church and state, see, they totally misunderstood that also with the government. The separation of church and state wasn't to what's that word I'm looking for? Denigrate religion. It was to keep from being supporting one religion. You could come here, and whether you want to be a Muslim, a Baptist, a Protestant,
No, I understand.
a Catholic, whether you wanted, you wanted to worship Baal or
Being atheist, not have
what,
a God,
atheist,
or
whatever. You could
Yeah,
come here and
actually-
be free
Yeah, but it was also to keep the federal government out
from
of the church.
mandating. Well, it was like over in England when they
Yeah,
came
but
over
the
there.
Romans killed everybody because you were Catholic.
Well, not only that, but the Europeans over there, the king, he believed in. That's how the King James version came about.
Right.
The Christian church. You had to be a. That's why the Christians and the Muslims fought overseas all the time. I mean,
well, the government controlled the
the
church
government controlled the
told
church
the
and everything,
church.
and that's what they did when they come here. It was the separation of church and state. It wasn't to, because we got "In God We Trust" on our bills. It's in our our pledge. Everything is.
We want to
wasn't-
take all that out, but
Well, but the bottom line is that's where our, and that's like a German guy I work with, Wolfgang Cooper. He was born in Germany, was in the German military, stationed up here in New York on a German base. Just like we got American over there, they had some German things over there. So he was here when he got.
yeah, we have
got his-
joint people.
So when he got discharged, he was here. It was up in New York, stationed in New York. And when he got discharged, he had a choice to go either back to Germany or stay here. And he requested to stay here and become a citizen. He's become a citizen. He loves America.
Right.
Well, after 9/11, he come into my office and he says, "Do you know what's wrong with this country?" He says, "What's the problem with our America?" He says, "Is we support Israel. If we'd stopped back in Israel, those Muslim people would leave us alone." And I looked up at him and I said, "Wolfgang," I said, "let me ask you a question." I said, "You are from Germany, aren't you?" And I had a smile on my face. He goes, "Yeah. What's your point?" And I said, have you not learned a lesson from your history?" And he says, what are you getting at?" I said, "Well, let me ask you a question." I says, "You know what? If you look at the map. Have you seen Israel? It's a little old speck to all the Muslim countries, Egypt,
Iran,
Afghanistan,
Syria,
Syria,
Libya.
Egypt, all those, and it's just a little speck over there." And I said, Israel's God's chosen people. And I said, Hitler took over Europe, Germany, and I said, was marching across all of Europe. It took over Czechoslovakia, it took over Poland, it was taking over France, it was walking through Russia.
Went down to Africa.
And I said, and guess what happened? I said, Hitler decided to have the Holocaust, and he killed all those Jews. And I says, the minute he turned on God's chosen people, and I said, then America come in. And what was America? We were already fighting the Japanese, and we were fighting on 2 different continents. And I says, and what happened? We beat you guys. But you know why we beat y'all? Because you messed with the Jews.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't mess with the Jews. And I says, you keep telling us. I said, the reason America is what it is today is because we are one of Israel's biggest allies. And people don't mess with Israel because they know America's backing them.
Right.
And you've got 5,000 nuclear weapons because you don't have to use them.
Right.
You've got a military that's the greatest military in the world because you don't have to use them. You build strength and you show force of military and police in the area hoping you don't have to use them.
Right.
If you do away with all the police, you're going to have chaos in this world. You do away with all the military, you got chaos in this country.
Right.
And I said, did you not learn a lesson from Germany? And you're sitting here telling America. I says, when America takes its hand off and stops helping Israel, God will take his hand off this country and it'll be a sad day for America.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I said, I'm just telling you, I said, the day America turns its back on Israel, God will turn his back on us. And I said, and the sad thing is, I says, Christian people like us will suffer for it.